Hello, friends, and welcome to Pathologic Volume 5, Episode 3. Today is a very exciting day for me because we are going to be solving an Ayeheya puzzle, which is one of my all-time favorites. We started off this whole series with a look at a Ayeheya puzzle, and this is a variant of Ayeheya that adds just one more rule that I think makes the result truly beautiful, and I am thrilled to be able to share it with you today. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the rules. Ayeheya is a Ayeheya variant. The rules are: shade some cells so that no two shaded cells are orthogonally adjacent, and the remaining unshaded cells form one orthogonally connected area. So this is in the family of puzzles that Puzzlink defines as no adjacent, no divide. We have black squares here that are never adjacent to each other orthogonally. Orthogonally just meaning horizontally or vertically. And all of the unshaded cells are in one undivided region. You can get from any one cell to any other cell in that region just by going horizontally and vertically. Numbered regions must contain the indicated amount of shaded cells. Also pretty straightforward. This one region at the top left has exactly one shaded cell in it. The two region has exactly two shaded cells. Unnumbered regions may have any number, doesn't have to be 0. A line of consecutive unshaded cells may not cross more than one bold border. This is what I refer to as the Ayeheya rule. It's the distinguishing feature of that genre, and it's the hardest one to get in your head. So it's saying that we couldn't have unshaded cells, for example, from this one all the way down to here, because that would cross this border and that border. So you can see in the example, we have cases where there's a whole lot of green in a column here, but it only crosses one border in the middle. The one on the edge is fine because there's a shaded cell there. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be that long, obviously. We've got, some very small, this is a horizontal stretch of only one cell. Obviously, that's fine too. And here is the variant rule. The shaded cells within a region must have 180-degree rotational symmetry around the region's center. If you don't know that mathematical term, it's just a fancy wording for the fact that if you could pop a pin right in the middle of this region and spin it all the way around, you would get exactly the same shape again. So that's easy to see in this region, or in this rectangular region here. You could spin this one around and get exactly the same shape, or even this more complicated 4 region. It's just important to realize we're talking about rotating this 180 degrees, not flipping it across an axis, because you can see that this is not symmetric if you were to mirror this region down here, but if you rotate it, it is symmetric. Those are the rules of Ayeheya. So it's time to solve a puzzle. Today's Ayeheya puzzle was set by Jovial. We actually only have 2 numbers in this grid, but they're numbers that are going to be very useful given the small sizes of those regions. Let's start off in the top right of the grid, where the no adjacent, no divide is enough for me to know exactly how the these two shaded cells, where they're going to be. We can't have them adjacent over here or over here. So we're going to need to have an unshaded cell in between the two. And whenever we shade a cell, we'll be able to unshade all of its neighbors. I'll be able to, let's also, while we're at it, point out that there's a dead end here, and we can't have an unshaded cell by itself at the dead end, so that needs to escape. Now let's refresh our memory on the Ayeheya rule, that we have a vertical stretch that crosses a border already and may not cross a second border. So once we get to this second border, we're going to need to plop a shaded cell right there. Okay, those are basically the refreshers of how Ayeheya works. Now let's talk about the implications of the symmetry rule. This 2 region, up at the top left, needs to have, obviously, 2 shaded cells in it, and we know they can't be next to each other. But in a regular Ayeheya, that could be these 2, or these 2, or these 2. Those would all be options. But in an Ayeheya, we need to be able to rotate this region around a pinpoint right here and have it be the same. And the only way we can do that is by shading these 2 outer cells. Another way we can see that I think we'll probably use elsewhere in the grid. Actually, I'm going to hold off on that thought till we get to that point elsewhere in the grid, because I think I can do that next. So this is the only arrangement of 2 cells that will be 180 degrees symmetric, and these 2 have to be unshaded. That means we can unshade these other cells that are adjacent here. Now, the other thing I do while I'm solving an Ayeheya is, as soon as I mark something in a cell, I make sure that I mark the rotationally equivalent cells the same way. So since this cell is unshaded, this cell must be unshaded. And the same thing is true here. Since this is unshaded, this is. And we can do the same thing with this region. We can do the same thing with this region. And we can do the same thing with this region. That puts these 3 cells like that in this corner. And since this is black, this has to be unshaded, and this diagonal across from it has to be unshaded. There are a few places we can go from here, but I want to talk next about, let's look at this region. This is an interesting one. Another thing you can do in Ayeheya, this is what I was about to refer to up in the top left corner, but I wanted to get a fresh place to do it, is that if the size of a region is, how do I phrase this? If it has an even length in one direction and an odd length in the other direction. So this is 2 by 3. Whenever we're in that situation, we're going to have a domino of cells right in the middle of that region. And that is interesting because by symmetry, these 2 have to have the same shading. And because they're next to each other, that shading must be unshaded. So just by the shape of this region, we can unshade these 2. And that is true of this region. This 1 by 4 has a domino in the middle. We can't shade that. And this 1 by 4 has a domino in the middle. We can't shade that. Oh, and there's one right here. This has got a domino in the middle, so we can't shade it. So that's the last of the, I guess, secrets of Ayeheya that I've internalized. So let's just look through the puzzle for places where we can apply the rules that we know. We've got a border crossing here that makes this shaded, and therefore that one. And then we unshade the neighboring cells and their reflections, like so. We have a border crossing here, which needs to be bounded on both sides. This one and its reflection, and its reflection. This one and its reflection and their neighbors. And we've got a border crossing vertically right here. This one and its reflection. This neighbor and its reflection. This neighbor and its reflection. We can also think about dead ends and escaping them. Here we've got one right here, so therefore this is unshaded and its reflection. And then we've got a border cross, which means this and its reflection are shaded. Neighbors and their reflections. Then another border cross here, which gives us that shaded cell and its reflection, and their neighbors, neighbor and its reflection right there. We've got any more border crosses already given. We might have exhausted that and now have to consider one of the other, probably a connectivity. The fact that I was kind of bouncing around to demonstrate things makes it a little harder for me to scan. I do see one more border cross now. I was stalling for time. So this border cross means this is shaded and its reflection, neighbor and its reflection. Now we've got a connectivity stuff. These can't, well, this can't be shaded because it would box off this bottom region. So that's unshaded. Its reflection is as well. So we come up out here. Oh, wait, we could come through here still. We still have two outs here, so that's less useful. Probably we're going to end up doing something like shading these two, which will force stuff. That's what I would do if I were setting it. Okay, so can we... Okay, this region, this is probably where I should have started in the top left corner, but I was just trying to demonstrate stuff. This region is an interesting one that combines the connectivity with the symmetry rule, because if either of these is shaded, both of them are shaded by symmetry, and that would box off this cell. So therefore, neither one is shaded. The Ayeheya rule means that one is shaded and its symmetric partner. We've got the neighbors, a neighbor and its partner. I was wrong about that. But I do have another Ayeheya cell here that I can shade and its partner. And we're just left with the top of the grid, and we're all connected, so it's not going to be a connectivity thing. This is the first time we've had to use the Ayeheya rule in a less than trivial way. The trivial way is you've crossed one border and you've made it up to another border and you need to shade the next cell. Here we don't have that case, but if this were unshaded, we would have something that stretches over two borders. So even though we're not up to the next border, since we know the one after it is unshaded, this has to be shaded, and therefore its partner does. This dead end needs to escape, and so does his partner. And how are we going to finish up? Well, we've got another big stretch here, which is fine at the moment, but if this were unshaded, we would then be crossing two borders. So that's shaded, which means its two neighbors are unshaded. And that, my friends, is how we solve an Ayeheya.